Good? All right,
Kim and I already been making decisions.
I know.
good for you. Welcome, everyone. I am here to open up the July 6th special meeting that we called for at 11 a.m. I show we are down 2 council members, Jamie Lyon and also Bob Markleese, but we do have a quorum. So with that, I'd like, no one's going to be I guess, remote, so we don't have to do that. So we'll go right into adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Additions?
Hang on, I apologize.
That's all right.
Hello. Hello. I'm in the special meeting. It started at 11. You coming? Okay, well then that's a no. Okay. I mean, we're going over the Geo bond stuff. I don't know. I saw it on your calendar. You can dial in if you want to. Do we need Jamie to dial in, or are we okay? We should have more, but if you want to listen in, you can. Sorry.
Okay, with that, we have confirmation that 2 council members are out. Apologize for that. So right into adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes, additions?
You've got microphone. Let me have this.
All right. That, moving forward, we're going to go right into items of discuss.
I'll make a motion to
Oh,
approve the agenda as
sorry.
presented.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. First up, we have discussion and consideration of the final general obligation bond projects. Who has this? Is that Christina?
Yes, sir. So Chazo is here with us again today from First Tryon to talk about the final projects and tax implications for the GEO bond questions. This is our kind of last stab at what specific projects we're going to add into the GEO bond for the 2 questions that we're proposing for the parks and transportation purposes. So in front of you are the greenways that we have talked about to date that really highlights what will be added as the potential projects if the GEO bond passes. They're delineated with the yellow highlights, and the blue highlight is something that you all need to discuss at this level. PRG board met to discuss these, and they wanted y'all to further assess the C13, the areas that I have highlighted in blue. I think I've encompassed all the areas of discussion. So they want to know if you're potentially looking at adding that back. And if y'all want to go ahead and talk about that, we can go through the numbers again, look at the projects, but it should be all highlighted based on the map that you see here. We are getting Destination by Design, who created this map initially, to do another update to this and to also do an overlay to visually depict what trails will be in that GEO bond, and we will use that for some of our communication pieces. And that's basically it. NCDOT state roads are listed in here. Should be about 2.5 million. Yeah, he's got it highlighted. And then aside from that, the rest of the roads and transportation purposes GEO bond is reflective of what you see in front of you.
Okay, so do you want us to do this first, the trail?
Yeah,
Okay.
can y'all talk about the blue area first, if you don't mind?
So, a quick question, as I looked at this, you have Marvin School just highlighted in yellow near C7. What, you're saying you're highlighting all the proposed areas, what specifically is that?
That's just because it's a school.
Oh, it's just, okay, so there's no, I thought the highlight was for the
See, look,
proposed
the high
areas.
school's highlighted, the
Right, okay,
elementary
okay.
school's highlighted.
So there's nothing, there's
No.
no trails. I just didn't
Senior
know of
Ridge
any
is
trail
highlighted.
that
Yeah, it's-
needed to
if
be
you,
there.
sorry, and I should have
That's
made that
okay.
distinction. If you look at the legend,
Yep.
there are certain portions of landmass that are highlighted in yellow. A little
Union
bit of a
County.
different hue than,
County owned.
Yep, okay,
than the highlight.
okay.
Good question.
So the blue, this is, so Park Rec and Greenway wanted us to relook at this, because we had originally said no. But they wanted us to look at it one more time just to make sure. The dark blue highlight that does not say C13, that is an existing easement that we have. There was a trail there at one point. It is, I'm sure, well overgrown and has a lot of work to be done to it in order to get it upgraded. C13, there may be an existing easement. I'm not sure about that.
There is. John Barisic acquired that from
Okay.
the farm. so
Okay,
It's there.
so there is an easement there. And I'm still in the same thought that I was beforehand, not to do those, either one of those, in this round with the bonds, mainly because the chimneys are not in Marvin. And we are planning on doing a sidewalk that goes down Waxaw Marvin that runs in front of their neighborhood. So until they come into Marvin, I don't think that we need to be making improvements to non-Marvin areas. But when they come in, because we would love for them to come into Marvin, then we would absolutely look at adding that into, into our next round of what we're doing.
And if I were to jump on that, they always say, well, what's in it for me? Why should I be a part of Marvin? This is a perfect example. Though, as much as I would like to, incorporate that, we're welcoming them in. It's, they've not been a Marvin taxpayer, and we're creating an area that really is just going to benefit that area. So to your point, if once they become part of Marvin, then those kind of things will be considered. And I mean, some of them are going to benefit because of the location, others that are on the edge there. I think that's, how much more money was that? Did we even,
It's 80,000.
80,000? Yeah. I mean, it used to be almost 10% of our budget,
We're playing with the numbers real fast to see what impact it would be. And
Well-
that 80,000 is just the C13. I'm not really sure this, the area that says it's existing.
Yeah, you're good. I got this.
I don't know what that is.
I mean, I would say that that's just gonna be a total redo.
Okay.
We're not gonna have to pay for
So I don't have,
acquisition costs, but it's gonna be a total redo, because it
That's going to
wasn't,
be an
it's gonna be more
expensive
expensive
trail,
because there's bridges.
Well, there are 3 small bridges that are just fording like little 3-foot, 4-foot wide areas. And then there's the main creek bridge there that's going to be a fairly expensive one. There were many discussions about this trail when I was on PRG, and there was, people want to use it for horses as well, which is great, but there's the main bridge. We discussed some alternatives where there would be no horses allowed on the bridge, so that would reduce the cost, but there's a fording point right close to it that they could divert and use that point. But there would be a tremendous amount of work and quite a bit of expense to build this trail. So I would agree that we should probably not put that on this particular round, that it would be something down the road.
Quick question. If, say, 80% of that neighborhood came into Marvin, what would it mean ad valorem? Do we know? Is that a finance question, approximately? How much more
Hunter
would we?
Hunter has that. I can get that answer for you.
And here's what I would commit. Let's say it's $100,000. I'd say that first year we get 80% of the community into Marvin. Would take that funding and earmark it towards creating a trail. And, I don't know if that's,
I'll get that
something we
answer. It's
could
gonna be a
say.
little bit.
It's just something that may be, what do we call it, the carrot for them to consider. Anyway, Wayne, do you have anything you want to add?
They're not in Marvin.
It's very simple. They're not in Marvin. I think that's fair. Okay.
And I'll say, if you guys want to add it in, you can add it in and not do it if they don't annex in. That's another option too. As long as you're spending the funds on transportation purposes, you can reallocate that money to another project. So it's definitely something that you can add as a negotiation piece to the annexation proposals. Or you could just know that you're going to probably save money on some of the other areas, and that would be the next trail that you actually did if they annexed in. You could do it either way.
I will tell you now, since we've changed our policy, every time I go to Eford Park, I introduce myself and I ask where they're from, and a lot of them are not from Marvin. So there's a lot of people enjoying Marvin taxpayer dollars without having to pay a Marvin tax, and this is something that I think we could just hold off on at this point. But that's a good point. We could add that, so.
And I'll get the number for the annexation, the ad valorem increase in just a little bit, if y'all are still interested in that.
Okay.
Okay, what else do you want to know?
Aside from that, we really just want to make sure y'all are good with all these trails. Sorry, my
Can we
phone's...
walk through them one by one to make sure that we're good? Make sure they're on there. We didn't miss anything.
And I have the detail. As we're walking through them, I can tell you, like, detail-wise, what the trail type is.
Okay.
If you remember, there's a couple of different trail types that we have in our standards. Some of them are paved, some of them are crushed stone, some of them are 8 feet, some of them are 12 feet. I can tell you what delineation it
So
has.
let's start at the top. So C1,
C1, North McBride Branch Greenway. Approximately half a mile. It goes from Tom Short Road to 6 Mile Creek to Future Park, and it's crushed stone.
okay. We've got C5,
C5 is the
Marvin.
6 Mile Creek connector. It's an NCDOT side path, so that's probably going to be paved.
okay.
Yep, it's a
Then we've
paved.
got, I don't have a number for it, but it is the Joe Carr Marvin Road remaining,
Loop connector.
yeah, loop connector.
You don't have
There's not a number on there.
on which one?
Joe Carr Marvin Road.
The remaining portion of the Marvin Loop, right there at the corner of Joe Carr and Marvin.
The green, like,
Yeah,
bulleted?
the dotted green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Let's see.
That's part of the Marvin Loop.
That's not part
it's
of
gotta
C5?
get-
No.
No, C5 is just the leg from the Marvin Loop to the
Let me
county
look at-
line. That connector to 6 Mile
What is it?
Creek.
S2A, Waxhaw Marvin, Newtown, nope, that's not it. S1,
There it is. Remaining portion, S1B, Wheatfield Drive, Saddle Ave. That's it.
Okay.
S1B. Can we label this, like, can we like put that on there, like with a Sharpie? And whenever they redo this map, let's add that.
Here.
That's fine. I got it now, but going forward, let's make sure it's on there. But it's S1B. Okay. Then we've got S2. It looks like we have 2A and 2B. Is that right?
S2,
Well, S1 is
And
the Heritage District.
S1A. I didn't say S1, I said S2.
Okay.
S2A, S2B, and S2.
There's just, we just went to A and B, and we dropped the C, right?
let me tell you what what the S2A means in the context.
S2A is from Waxaw Marvin down to Henry Nesbitt. S2B is from Waxaw Marvin, or from Henry Nesbitt to Bonds Grove.
According to the prioritization matrix that I have, it's S2A is from Waxaw Marvin and Newtown intersection to Stacy Howie.
Okay.
And then S2B is from Stacy Howie to Crane.
Okay,
And then S2C is from Crane to the village limits.
perfect. Okay, that's right.
You guys good with that?
Yep, that's right.
That's fine.
Okay. Are you good? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's just they're not labeled.
No, they're not
from the
labeled.
Heritage District to the village limits.
Okay.
That's good,
It's
right?
a long, it's a
I-
long
It's
track,
long,
but it's gonna be that's like the most vital connective trail
Yeah.
in the village, because it goes from one end of the village to the other.
Yep. Okay, so then we've got C15.
C15 is
Bonds Grove.
an NCDOT side path and typical greenway, and it's from the vicinity of Belgrove Road,
No, the roundabout to
Bonds Grove.
Providence Road.
Bonds Grove Church Road, Waxaw Marvin to Providence, yes,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay, we've got C17, which is Providence Road, our portion of Providence Road. We know that that's gonna be a NCDOT.
Yeah, that's in their
Bonds
widening
Grove
plan.
Church to Newtown.
Yep. Then we've got C20A, which is from the Marvin School Road roundabout on Newtown to the park.
So, just real quick, NCDOT is building that on Providence with the widening. What was our agreement with them? Are they paying for it, or are we paying a portion of it? How's that? Because I don't think we're paying for all of it. I think, because they came to us and asked us what we wanted,
We're-
when they were the first time.
Yeah, we're paying for it, we're paying a portion of it.
A portion of
from
it.
Newtown Road to Bonds Grove Church.
So we don't, so we don't have to foot the whole bill, we're paying a portion.
No,
There was
but I
there's
don't
some-
remember what that portion
Yeah,
is.
there's
and-
some agreement there somewhere, and I can't remember,
Yeah,
because I
what's-
was on PRG at the time.
What's the number amount on that one?
C-17,
C17?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be significantly lower, because whatever our agreement with DOT was, it wasn't that much.
We'll have to go back and look and see what that agreement was initially. That would have been
We signed that
back
agreement in 18,
18?
probably.
Yeah, I want to say
That
it
was like one of the first things that I did, and I was like, well, are we really, like,
because they came to us like, oh, we've got money all of a sudden, we're going to build Providence Road. What do y'all want to do? And you need to let us know in 60 days.
Yeah,
And
it
we
was
all had to
crazy.
jump.
Are you talking about the widening and the sidewalk?
Yes.
We-
Yes.
So we have gone around and around with them the last probably 2 years, because we've been trying to update our PAL bill tracker. We have not been able to find the solid agreement, so I don't know if it was officially executed. I'll go back to looking at that.
There was something we had to be on the hook for.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And then Weddington was involved with it and what they were gonna accept, like
County,
how wide.
so you can't find the signed agreement?
Jill, you remember that when we were going back and forth with Sean, and then you contacted their office, and nobody could give us the executed agreement? We didn't dig hard for it, because we were literally just trying to update our PAL bill tracker, but we'll go back to
Yeah, we need to
looking
dig
it.
for that, because I feel like it was 500 or less.
Yeah, that's going to definitely affect this. so
I mean, we
need to
ought to be,
know.
we ought to be able to look up the minutes and figure out what it said, and about when it was executed.
We'll look for it. We did not do an exhaustive search. We
Okay,
were literally
I'd
just high
forgotten
level.
about that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it as it is now, because that's what,
That's big money right there,
yeah, I mean,
that
that's.
stretch.
Yeah, but we'll leave it for that for right now.
Well, the other thing is, we don't necessarily want to have the state assuming we're gonna spend that much, because that's what it would cost, but there was also, I know there was an agreement,
Yeah.
or what we had agreed to, that
Yeah,
is
and
gonna
we
be
won't-
less than that.
We won't be constructing this.
Oh, until it gets
NCDOT
widened.
will, when they're widening it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is going to be 6 years out.
Is that okay, by the way? Hold on, that's a good point. 6 years, at the bare minimum,
You can pull the second tranche and do it.
So if the bonds pass, you have an initial 7-year period to issue the debt before your authorization expires. You can petition the LGC for an additional 3-year extension. It's pretty much a rubber stamp approval. We haven't ever seen someone not be approved, but you don't necessarily want to count on it.
Okay,
So if you do include it in this bond package, ideally, you'd want to have it done within that first 7-year.
so that'll get us to 31. I'm not good at math, but right, that'll get us to 31?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's just to issue the debt.
So
Once you issue the debt, you obviously have the bond proceeds on hand to spend.
How long do you have to spend it?
Usually you want to spend that within a 2 to 3 year period.
Okay.
So if that's towards the,
Because what's the
8th or
last,
9th year, you could certainly hold off and just have that money in the bank and spend
Okay.
it once the project pops up.
so we could, okay, so then we wouldn't necessarily have to reissue a second. That wouldn't necessarily have to be in the second
But we need
go
to
around.
find out what our agreement is.
Yeah, no, I agree. Where are we, what's the state saying now? When are they planning on starting now? 28?
Actually, I just got I was looking through my email. This was in the fall, we were looking for this. I was asking him about the agreement and about when they were starting. He said it looks like the current project is moving forward, program construction date of 27. I would anticipate any betterment cost for the project being due around 2030.
Okay.
Yeah, 2027.
Okay, so
27.
2030 is when they're gonna need the money, so we still should be fine, but we still have a 3-year, or we can pull the funds and just have it sitting there. Okay,
That's correct.
okay, all right. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we've got C20A, which is Marma School Road roundabout on Newtown to the park.
That'll be key.
And then C20B, which goes from the park to Providence Road. Okay, and did we reduce that by half already? Yeah, okay. Okay, perfect. And then we have C4C, which is a little teeny connector. There's no way it's costing that much money. Isn't that the one we have already have approved?
C4A. What do you have?
Yeah, that can't be that
Did
much
you say
money.
C4A or
Or I'm
C4C?
getting
I
out of this business.
Thought I
I'm
said
getting in-
C4C.
I'm getting into.
I may have said A.
Yeah.
Trail business.
That's the one that you guys are, that's the one that Derek just got approved. That's literally
That's,
right
yeah.
here, and it's like
Yeah.
$30,000.
yeah, we've got it estimated for 380, but that's, I mean, yeah, I think it's like 50,000 if even that.
Who's been talking to, have you been talking to the trail builder?
I have, yes.
So do we know, like,
Hang on.
have we not authorized that? Like, does that even need to be on here?
Let me look real quick at this email. The problem with this is the numbers and the titles that we call them are not always the titles that they call them in the master plan, so it gets a little confusion. We might call it S1B, he calls it Tullamore Phase 3, so
Right.
let me try to find it.
No, it's literally goes from the
That one
internal
was done.
preserve trail to
Yeah.
Painted Turtle. It's like, it's right here, and it's not very long.
Maybe it's not from here to.
Tullamore Phase 1.
Okay, okay. I'm thinking
Maybe.
somewhere totally different.
Yeah. What's his
But it's the
linear
internal
footage? He's,
It's not very far.
it's not that, yeah.
We just had, wasn't he just out there like a couple weeks ago doing this?
He was looking at phase, Tullamore, hang on, I'm reading these emails. Tullamore Phase 1 and 2 and Meadow View, as I believe Derek called it, is complete, which I think is portion of C2 on your map that runs parallel to C1. Okay, so let me make sure and let me read this.
That's up in Tullamore.
The north portions are called Phase 3 and 4 of Tullamore, and they'll be starting soon. Determine if C4C is Painted Turtle.
No, it's,
Tullamore.
listen to me,
I'm
listen.
trying.
Internal
Find out
Preserve Trail to Marvin Creek, which is Painted Turtle. Marvin Creek is Painted Turtle.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with Tullamore.
Okay, I'm
It's a
thinking
totally separate
Painted
section.
Turtle, a different street that my wife wife and I runs and I ride and I'm thinking.
It's
Painted
probably
Turtle
painted,
is a
it's probably
cul-de-sac.
painted, it is a cul-de-sac in Marvin Creek.
Right,
Same one we're talking about.
that's what I'm trying to think where that
But there's
where
a,
that connects.
the
I don't
preserve
know the
internal
answer to
trail
that question.
goes like
Okay.
back.
We're almost positive this part's done. So let's just take it off for now, and if it's, for some reason, we need to add it back, we'll manipulate the numbers,
Look at
but
that, saving you guys money everywhere I go.
180,000, I'll take that.
Well, that's a crazy number anyways.
Right.
That,
Well, again, we think these numbers are numbers from the master plan. They inflated them not just for the cost to do the work, but also for acquisition. So they inflated them significantly to make sure that we had enough, like, when we're doing it. Okay, so,
And that was for being down the road farther than what we're planning at this point,
Correct.
too. So we should see a pretty significant cost savings by doing it all at once.
correct. Now, Christina, I had asked you the question, if we own these roads, because we will own these roads, how do we then go about doing the land acquisition? Because they will then be our roads, so can't we put sidewalks in our right-of-ways?
yes.
Yeah.
Do we have to pay for that?
No,
Right.
as long as it's within the right-of-way, no. Now, if there's some other factor that requires,
Easements.
yeah, or like a bridge or something like that, we potentially
But
may
the
have to.
easements, I mean, the right-of-ways transfer from DOT to the village if we take over the road, correct?
They should, yes.
So-
Everything all the way out to whatever is maintained by whoever maintains the road, so.
We are now then going to save even more money, because we are not going to have to then acquire.
Correct.
Right. And there are certain areas that we are in the road right-of-way purposely to not have to get easements.
Right.
Because there's some places where we can't get, and Marvin Road is one of them. It's gonna have to go in that because they won't grant an easement.
Well, I'm not worried about this portion here, because that's gonna be done with the, grant money.
I'm just saying, like, there are certain areas that you're not
No,
gonna
I
be able
know.
to get.
Yeah.
It'll have to be in the right-of-way,
Right.
which is good for us because then we will own the right-of-way anyway.
Correct.
None of these estimates in the master plan included acquisition costs anyways, so,
But they were inflated enough to cover,
yeah.
is what they told us when they presented it to us. So, okay. All right, so we've got the roundabout at Waxaw Marvin and Bonds Grove. We know that's not 64,000. Oh, that's that first year. Go over, Chazo, sorry. I was like, well, that's not right. There we go, there it is, okay. Then we've got our wayfinding signs. Do we feel like these numbers are pretty good? Okay. Then, Stacy Howie, okay, go past the greenways. Then we've got NCDOT total. So we've got the numbers that we have, that's from our engineers looking at what it's gonna cost to get all these roads up to snuff, correct?
Yes, and I will note, that is just for the roads themselves. That's not doing any type of drainage or reshaping shoulders or any of that stuff.
So if there is a giant dip on Newtown, that's not gonna cover pouring some, like, making the shoulder better.
No.
Can we get that number?
I mean, I can get them to go give us an estimate and include it in here, or we can just put a general blanket number in there that we would use for purposes of fixing issues.
I mean, I feel like we were gonna have enough fluff in there, but I don't want to not, and I don't wanna have these giant, like, fall-offs of the road in
I
certain
mean, you
places.
are you thinking of something specific that resurfacing isn't gonna fix?
I don't know what resurfacing's going to fix.
So
That's my problem.
So typically I think I know what you're talking about. A prime example, and I know this is gonna be solved, but like the pond that we have at Newtown and Marvin Road, that big, something similar to that. So if they were to come and resurface that road today, they're going to bring it up to standard today. They're gonna make sure the transition is okay. Now, whether or not that stays over the course of 5-6 months is a whole different story. So when they resurface the roads like he's referring to, they'll fix that.
Okay. See,
We
I don't
can-
know. I don't know what I'm,
Yeah, so
Don't
the,
know.
the
We
can-
shoulders have to be brought to a certain, because when they did Waxaw Marvin Road, I went and I spoke to the engineer actually and as to what they were doing, and what he was telling me is that the stuff that they put on the edge, they lift the road up, so it's, you know, when they put the cap on, so then it's a big drop off. So then they have to fill that, and DOT has a spec of what they fill that with, so that it's not soft dirt, so if you go off the edge of the road, you don't sink. So,
But in areas that are heavily trafficked, like that intersection, it's going to happen over time. So the only real solution to that is to kind of change the design a little bit to make it more reinforced concrete or whatever along that side. DOT didn't want to do that because they didn't want to encourage people to actually do the pulling off the side when people were trying to turn, because it would make the problem worse. So-
I'm not even talking about like a turn. I'm literally talking like I'm on a straight,
Yeah.
going straight, and there's like
Drop off.
a drop off.
Yeah, they would fix that at the time of construction.
Okay.
It would be fixed.
Okay.
Now, whether or not that's caused today, like if there's one particular area that's caused by people running off the road, or if it's caused by an underlying drainage issue, is a whole different story.
Okay. But it will be fixed once
Yes.
we start, and then we can assess as we go from there. Okay.
But I will say, if it is caused by an underlying drainage issue, it's going to come up again, and we would likely have to address it when that comes up with
I mean,
money that's not budgeted.
I don't, just from my travels around the village, I can't pinpoint anything in particular that would be an issue that resurfacing wouldn't handle.
Okay.
I can't think of anything in particular.
Okay. All right, I'm just asking the question. I want to make sure we've got everything in
Unless
here.
there's something in a neighborhood that I'm not,
No, it's really not.
paying
It's
attention to.
it's really main thoroughfares that I'm thinking of.
I think everything that we're talking about taking over is going to be remedied by surfacing.
Okay.
One thing that I will say that we have not talked about in terms of unexpected is anything that would be under the ground or the road, any of the stormwater systems that may be failing that we don't know about. We would have to take over that section of maintenance once we take over the roads, and we don't know what we don't know without actually doing a study. And you remember, we brought that before you all several months ago, but it was really costly, and it was only for our roads, it wasn't for DOT roads. So we address them as they come up. I mean, that's just what we've been doing. That's what most places do, so.
I think that's good. We'll keep doing that.
There is, well,
There's
there,
no way that if you went down this month, 2 months from now, it might have something in it.
Yeah.
So it's, do it as you have a problem.
I can't remember the cost of the study. I want to say it was between $20,000 and $40,000 to give us an understanding of,
I don't think it's gonna
yeah.
get you anything unless you have actual there, what you could have. Usually when you have windstorms and things like that, like limbs, small limbs or decent size, they get stuck, come in and they
Yeah.
block up more, you gotta clean them out.
there are two problem areas with drainage, though, that I can think of that we might want to consider. One of which is in front of the chimneys where it floods the road every time it rains hard, and the other is down by the Mott's where it floods. There's two areas that it floods across the road when it rains hard that we may want to look at for some drainage updates. So we might want to think about putting some numbers in there for those two areas.
Can you
I've
repeat
sent
those?
pictures to Christina before of the road flooding when I've been down in those
Repeat
areas.
that location real quick.
So there's in front of the chimneys where the road to the school, it floods there. It floods in front of the Mott's place, and it floods
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. The whose place?
the Mott's.
Mott's.
MOTTS.
Yes, where it
The-
comes
In
down.
front of the elementary school, too.
That's what I'm
was that?
saying,
Yeah.
that right there in front of the elementary school, in front of the
It's not really the
chimneys.
elementary school, it's actually, what's the neighborhood that?
Chimneys.
The chimneys, yes. And then and then also the little creek that runs behind the high school that crosses Waxaw Marvin Road. In that area there, we get some flooding on the road surface. Those are the only two, that's the only thing I can think of though, as far as like water over the road when it rains really hard. And some of that can be handled by just possibly updating the ditches, making sure that they're cleaned and that it's flowing.
What about,
But we probably have our engineers look at it.
So,
right, are we still having problems on Joe Carr Road where the new development is?
I haven't seen that flood in,
So just,
A long
just a
time.
heads up, he being
He who shall-
Mr. Carr,
oh, Don't
reached
remain
out to me
nameless.
and wants me to do, like, with, I guess Hunter, to walk and make sure what they're doing is not gonna affect, the new development that's being put in there, the 8 or 9 homes, whatever it is not gonna affect his property, but they do wanna walk with that. But that's always, that always seems to be an issue, sometimes flooding issue, right? in
where
that
are you
area.
talking about?
Right in front of Joe Carr's, Don Carr's place, on Joe Carr Road,
Yeah.
right? as you-
Right, kinda where
which way you're coming.
Saddle-
If you're coming from Marvin Road, it would be on the left side, right in front of Don Carr's place, that area.
I have not seen that flood since the last hurricane came through.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be.
Well, I'm just trying to think of the other areas, but he did, and that just jogged my memory. He
But
wants to
who-
go out.
Who does?
Joe, Mr. Carr, he's, the, council member for.
The nephew?
The son.
The nephew, the nephew.
so
Okay,
all,
so what 8 homes?
The 9 homes from Jones Homes.
There's 18 or 16.
so all that, the
I have
engineer,
no idea what's happening.
It's, to me, right
Joe,
now,
what-
there's
what
9
town do
homes.
you
in
live
there. Right now, there's 9 homes. There's not 18, there's 9.
I don't know what he's looking for in that conversation, because all that would be assessed by our engineer and our, the
That's what I
meeting of
told
the.
him, but he.
It has not flooded in years, and it's gonna run downhill. It's not gonna stop up where he is.
Only if you have a storm knock limbs down.
Yeah.
And they get tangled up.
So, do y'all want to put kind of a blanket miscellaneous drainage line item in here and just throw 50,000, 75,000 at it?
I think that
Or
would
do
be
you just wanna
smart
use it?
because we don't know what these costs are
I
gonna be.
think we're gonna have enough fluff in here to cover it.
You think so?
Yeah. Okay, you want a little extra? Okay. Drainage, 50?
If nothing,
Yeah.
the amount, I think is secondary, is that you're telling people that you are.
Aware of it. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, drainage.
So instead of like delineating the exact locations, I know you've pointed out a couple of them, we can have the conversation about what specific areas we need to address once we get into it and figure out what's problematic, if that's okay.
How
I
much
just-
you wanna do?
I'm just trying to give an idea of what the scope of what we're looking at, so we have some kind of an idea of cost, some kind of a ballpark. But I think 50 to 75,000 is probably adequate to put in there for drainage and just for planning purposes.
Okay, let's do 50.
Because I don't know if we're gonna have anything, but as I said, I think that people ask.
But
this gentleman,
miscellaneous
We're looking those things up there, we have
to
some
be
money.
determined later.
Set aside in the bond.
I just don't want a miscellaneous drainage to be determined later. I don't want anyone here today or listening to think we've identified specific areas. Just want to kind of leave that.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, so we're good on NCDOT total. Sidewalk acquisition and repairs, you feel like that's a good number?
Yeah.
Okay, and what are sidewalks? I mean, I know what they are, but I don't need a smarty answer. Joey?
Oh, I was
Come on,
going
you
there.
You served it up
I
just
know,
so
I
sweet.
did, I teed it right up for everybody, I know.
We added that in, and
Are we
Is
building
that
sidewalks
for new
somewhere?
or, yeah, repairs? But it's, obviously, we have repairs above it.
And there's
so-
obvious that we have
It's gotta be
sidewalk
new
acquisition.
sidewalks.
I think we're double counting it on one. Why don't we take the lower one out?
Yeah, that's what I was
But
gonna
let's keep the title the same. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think it's our job to put in sidewalks, is it?
Well, it is, but that's what we're doing with the greenways.
Right, well,
Yeah.
So it just depends on where. I don't think we're not putting in sidewalks in neighborhoods that don't currently have sidewalks. Is that what you're
That's
referring to?
yes.
Yes, I agree. Street blades. We feel good about that?
I asked Austin the question on the street blades, and he said that's well enough. The street blades were costly the last time we did it because we had to replace the actual hardware that it was on because our blades didn't match with what was existing. But the way that the wayfinding group has prepared these is they're like little circles almost.
They're attachments that would mount to an existing neighborhood's post that have the tree symbol. The only thing is if you had a normal NCDOT metal post, it wouldn't match with that. So
Okay.
it'd be for like nicer neighborhoods that have,
The fancy
Normal,
decorative
yes.
ones, okay. And then if somebody else if a neighborhood wanted to get the decorative ones, they could, and then we could add them on there. Got it, okay. Okay, looks good to me.
So these are all the ones we will put on the roads, transportation, geo bond question,
Okay,
transportation roads, whatever we end up calling the question.
yep,
Is everybody good with this? You ready to see your number?
yep,
You sure?
Number is?
yep.
Now, remember, we had discussed, and I think y'all are still wanting to do it in 2 batches. Like you want to do the first round, we'll figure out which ones we'll do first, and then the second round, we'll do another tranche. That being said, let's see, Geo 2025 and then 28. So we would get a couple of them done, and then 3 years later, we'd get a couple more done. So what does that give us? $14 million. And then, what is the tax impact on that?
Wait, that was for all the roads?
That's all the roads.
Go back.
It's the roads,
No,
the
go
park,
back to the other one.
everything.
This one. Oh, it's because we got that dang roundabout in there, isn't it?
Show the total.
There's no way that all that stuff's gonna cost that much. Okay. I believe you.
So it's spread out over a 5-year period.
Okay.
That's the 14.
All right, I believe you. Okay. All right, go back. Okay, why do we have 25 GEO bond issuance, cost of issuance, and then 25 GEO bond cost of issuance, and then we have 28? Why do we have 2 and 25?
So that is because also in 25, we're contemplating the Village Hall Park.
Oh, so it would be
on
the
park
2
side.
separate ones.
So it was just to make sure that we could allocate a portion of those issuance expenses to the
Got it, okay,
parks-related
okay,
project.
okay. Got it, okay.
So we had massaged some numbers, so give me a second just to run this through.
So the first couple years is 4.5 cents?
So right out of the gate, if you were to issue half in fiscal '25, that'd be about a 4.5 cent tax increase. And then if you were to do the second tranche 3 years later for the other 7 million or so, that'd be an additional 3 cents. So you'd peak at about 7.5 cents, but then that could slowly roll off as bond principal starts to pay down.
To explain what you mean by peak at 7.
So in order to service the first debt issuance, that first principal and interest payment, I'll get you that number real quick.
You'd have to go up 4.5.
Yes, so the first payment is about $735,000, assuming a $7 million issuance at a 5% interest rate, which is currently above market at the moment. And so that first $735,000 is roughly equivalent to 4.5 cents on the tax rate. And so after 3 years, your annual principal and interest payments will start to decline because as principal rolls off, your interest component will lessen. And so, whereas if you look at it at one whole $14 million issuance, it would be a 9-cent increase because we're looking at principal and interest payments declining over the first 3 years, plus we're assuming a modest 1% growth in your value of 1 penny. That second issuance would only be an incremental additional 3 cents on the tax rate.
Not 7.5.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's incremental. So you would just need to go up in another 3 cents 3 years later to pay both the proposed 2025 bond issuance as well as the proposed 2028 bond issuance.
So essentially, just so I'm understanding correctly, the question would be, are you interested in potentially going up 4.5 pennies for year 1, 2, and 3, and then an additional 3 in years afterwards?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I'm fine. I think these numbers are way more palatable than I thought that they were gonna be. And I think that as we start doing the work, the numbers that we're getting in are gonna be significantly less. And so we will be able to pay this back quicker or not have to raise the tax rate as much as we go forward. With that being said, you said this is currently at a 5% interest rate, which is, you said, above market. So at what point will we need to have locked in, or can we lock in?
Lock in your interest rate?
Yeah,
So that would be about a month or so before you actually have the money in hand. So if you're
Oh,
going to
before-
issue in fiscal '25, call it maybe a year or so from now, then you back it up basically a month from when you would actually want your bond proceeds in hand to start spending on projects. So it would fluctuate, which is why we like to stay above market until we start to get really close to the time that you would issue debt, so that we're not lowballing it. But for example, if you were planning to issue it in fiscal '25, we would probably want to start dialing that in around the time that you adopt your fiscal '25 budget, assuming that you might want to consider a property tax increase then, so that we are giving you more current numbers, and so the adopted budget is reflective of a more current interest rate environment.
So if you put it, like, say for instance, we're above, you put what I think might be fair in a year and a half, 3.5% interest, what does that look like?
Let's see. So if you were to be able to issue at 3.5% in fiscal '25,
And while he's playing with that, I will say, we are going to, the next item on your agenda is the communications piece. We won't really officially start getting true information out until probably the fall. So if interest rates drop between now and then, we can manipulate these numbers a little bit.
and that's exactly what I was asking. Because as we start to educate the public on this and why we want to do it, I wanted to try to get as close to
Actual.
our numbers that we can get to, but that's why I wanted to know. So if we, okay, Joe, so there's the numbers
so
before I
that
ask.
would save you about a 0.5%. One thing I just do want to mention is, as part of the referendum process, the local government commission requires that the village submit what's called a statement of disclosures. And within that statement, it includes a handful of data points for the public, one of which is the estimated interest over the life of the bonds if you're to issue all $14.4 million, for example. Another one is if there is a potential property tax increase required to repay the bond debt service, what is that? And unfortunately, what the LGC requires is it's part of what they call a safe harbor rule, which is essentially protecting the village and letting the public know kind of a very high-end maximum property tax increase that would need to be applied to service the debt. And that basically looks at current market interest rates plus 2%. So it's unfortunately an unrealistic number. And so that might create some sticker shock for citizens. And so what we've been doing is in that statement of disclosure, we've taken it a step further and said, this is what the property tax rate increase would be under the safe harbor rule, current interest rates plus 2%. But also here's what it is under a more realistic planning rate. So we put two numbers in there so that we can satisfy what the local government commission wants the village to submit, but also kind kind of bring it down a notch and be more realistic.
Okay.
So that, just wanted to let you know that that is one of the documents that we will have to submit to the LGC, and it will include property tax rate increase that's probably not going to actually come to fruition.
Okay.
So how does that, I'm just curious how that works. If we're telling the public 4 cent, but we have to tell the LGC 6 cent,
That doesn't mean we have to tell the public that.
yeah, that's, I mean, like,
I mean, it's
Well,
that,
it's like a
or we
disclosure
have to
thing.
print that disclosure in our educational materials, which is fine, as long as we have our other disclosure that goes along with it.
Yes, so the statement of disclosures does have to be posted for the public to be able to review, but that's why we also want to put that.
We should just
Second
we should
step.
just bring it to meetings and let people read it here, since everybody shows up, so it'll be fine. Nobody will ever see it.
I don't think it's that easy.
It's true. What?
You know, and I think what he's saying is, it has to be put out at a conspicuous place.
I think.
You mean it like at a council meeting? Perfect.
for
I'm
example-
just kidding. I know we gotta put it out there. I'm just kidding.
I think it has to be maybe on the village's website. We're going through this right now with one of our clients, Beach Mountain, and they're doing a referendum, and they posted their statement of disclosures to their website along with some other bond-related information. So I think it has to be in a very conspicuous place where people will be able to locate. Yeah.
send statement of disclosure to LGC. We'll do that in December. And then, okay, so that'll take place the end of the year. Okay.
No, I mean, I'm fine. No, I'm trying to make it funny that nobody shows up to our meetings. No, put it everywhere. Put it everywhere. We're all about being transparent.
So-
I want people to know, like, this is a big deal. This is going to get a lot of projects done in a very short amount of time. And we're already at such a low, ridiculously low tax rate, but this will get a lot of stuff done, and then we can drop it back when we need to.
This is it's gonna save taxpayers money in the long run, because we're
Yep.
gonna, as Joe likes to allude to, today's dollars versus tomorrow's. This is definitely that scenario. Get it done now before costs go up and up and up as they do in the future.
One of the things too that we've discussed it, but we haven't added it in the model or anywhere in like future planning documents, is the level of maintenance that would be required just in sheer staff increases. We would have to definitely increase our staff base.
Well, okay, so that was going to be my next question. The committed fund balance, because it is in black, we are adding to it, correct?
Yeah, so this is just looking at if you wanted to keep in a silo a dedicated property tax rate to pay for specific
Staff.
bond issuances.
Can we
So-
pay for staff from that?
Yes, absolutely. So to the extent there is surpluses, which is the black numbers here, you could certainly leverage that to pay for staffing, for additional maintenance, other costs associated with the projects that are being funded.
And these numbers are what we would add to it every year?
Sorry, that is like the ending balance during a given year. So,
Right, so the first year we would add 29,000.
correct.
The second year we would add 108,000?
You would add roughly 88,000, so that the balance would then
Okay.
end up at 108,000.
I was like, man,
So
look
then
at all that
that'll
money you
ebb
got
and
to
flow.
spend, Jill.
So if you were to
Okay.
keep your property tax rate above what you needed, then you could accumulate a significant amount of money.
But it wouldn't be 111, 276, 462, 300. It would be, the most we would accumulate, it looks like, would be 580, and then we would have to pull from it?
So this, what I'm just doing over here is roughly the surplus or deficit in a given year.
Got it, okay.
So that'd be the money that you could play with in a given year too, or play with, you could put towards staffing,
Got
maintenance,
it.
other costs.
Okay,
And so, one way you could look at it is if we just raise the property taxes sufficient to cover the debt, and then as the debt rolled off, that would generate additional revenue that if you didn't lower the property tax rate, could be put towards maintaining the greenways and trails that you're building.
got it.
We are gonna have to look down the road, though, that once this bond is paid for, that's not the total cost of the project, because we have perpetual maintenance.
Right.
on everything we build. So we're gonna have to look at how that's gonna get funded down the road.
So-
Personnel, materials,
Right.
all that.
Okay, yeah. So instead of rolling off to go back to just 6 cent, we may end up leaving it at like 8 or
Something,
something. Okay.
because reality is it has to be maintained, so we
Yeah.
have to figure out how to
Well,
plan for that
and you're gonna
future.
need, you're gonna need staff too, and if we can, I mean, it's, 6 one way, half a dozen the other, where we get the money from, whether it's this property tax increase or a separate property tax increase. Okay.
Question. Would law enforcement be a part of any of this by any chance? For road? Any way you can? Can't.
I mean, we could do a separate geo bond question on law enforcement, and that would be more focused on, if we're willing and wanting to start our own force and needing to build up that
I
infrastructure.
don't necessarily going there. I'm just thinking with this, such a big tax increase that's just really going to roads and stuff like that, maybe trying to throw in an extra full-time officer, but I don't know how that correlates with this.
You
I mean,
can't. If you're gonna do that, just raise the tax to 7 cent and just add another one.
Right.
Yeah, the property tax rate increase money can be used for whatever purpose you want. Even if you're saying we're planning to raise the tax rate 4 cents for the GO bonds, it is not in any way tied to the referendum question. So it is just available money for the village to use as it pleases.
Okay.
But if we're targeting a 4-cent rate increase to pay for debt, then there's probably not gonna be much left over.
Right, okay.
But it's not like the actual projects that are being approved themselves that if you
We can't
approve
use it for
$14
something
million,
else.
It has to go towards roads, it can't be put towards.
I just
the
thought
law
it had
enforcement
maybe
side.
something to do with
One,
roads.
one thing that I'll throw out there that may be a possibility, and you can shoot me down if I'm wrong, Jazzo. We obviously are going to do this in bits and pieces. We're not going to say, hey, the GO bond passed, let's resurface every single road out there today. We're going to figure out how we're going to approach that and probably do the worst first or most traveled first, however that works.
We're not?
I would not think you're going to, but you might.
Well,
You going to go out and do them all
It's-
tomorrow?
yeah, it's physically not possible to do them all the same day,
Well,
but
I
we're
mean,
gonna have
not
to
the same
phase
day,
them.
but I mean, I don't wanna really wait, like,
I won't have to phase them.
We would phase, like, I'm just gonna use some examples, Newtown Road first, then Marvin School Road second, then we would figure out that process out where it would probably take a year or two to get them all done.
Right.
We've got some areas that are still.
Not to mention that you don't want to shut down every main artery in the village and repave them all at the same time.
I say all that to say, we may get into a situation where we want to start doing some of that work ourselves, meaning we hire, adequate staff, we get the equipment, we send staff to training to do some of that work ourselves. So we may get into a situation where you all may want to do that.
What
We could
specific
use
work
this-
are we hiring staff on? Like road work?
Yeah, yeah. As long as the money's used for transportation purposes and we are getting the equipment, the infrastructure that's necessary to make that happen, we could still spend the money on
Joe, I don't-
doing that, correct?
I don't think that she's talking about buying a paver, but possibly
No, I mean,
feasibly,
like capital
a fog,
equipment,
a
yeah.
fog,
Yeah.
possibly FOD coating, that could probably be done in-house with staff.
Like, yeah, if we wanted to buy a fog seal machine and it
Yeah.
cost
That would-
$100,000, we could do that and save money over the long term than
Right.
having it contracted out.
But
I mean, we're spending, if
certainly
you
not
look at.
buying a paver.
It's a conversation to have, not just about GO bonds, but aside, operating costs as well. Because if you look at what our engineer has projected out over the next 5 or 6 years, and don't quote me on this number, I'd have to look at our maintenance schedule, but it's $200,000 every other year on fog seal. So if we were to go out and look at how much that equipment costs, if we had staff that could adequately do the job, we could do it ourselves and save money over the long run. That's a conversation for another day. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility.
she fusses at us for adding stuff to their plate, and look what she's trying to add. Seriously, she wants like a dump truck.
You want a
Okay.
dump truck, don't you?
Okay, so we issue, so we go to the constituents on the referendum in March. We find out it's a thumbs up, because we're gonna put all the positive energy out there, all the good vibes. So it's a thumbs up. When can we realistically say go? Like, when can we get the money?
So the issuance process is about a 3-month process from start to finish. So in theory, if beginning of March you get the thumbs up, you probably could do it by fiscal year end. That would be a very quick pace. And you want to make sure that when you're issuing the debt, you have critical mass of projects ready to go. And so I know you all have done the master plan, but I don't know if there's any additional engineering work that would need to take place, or if it's just going out there and procuring the.
So it'll be fiscal year 24.
24, 25. more than
24,
likely.
right, July of 24. And basically, anytime after that, like, we can really go.
Yep, that's right.
Is that fiscal year 24?
It'd be
'Cause we're in
24,
25.
July-ish of 24, so 24, 25.
24, 25, okay. I was,
So a year from now.
okay.
If all-
And we'll know if it passes or not, so then we can really start ramping up where we want to, like, which of, since Christina won't let me do them all at one time, we'll pick the project that we want. You know?
Well,
I'll
to his
find the
point,
trucks.
there may be some prep or.
I'm
or-
kidding, you guys. I
But
don't really think we're
I'm-
gonna
I'm a-
shut, I
I'm a
mean,
little confused. What's in March that gets approved?
that's when
from-
we're going to the ballot, the referendum.
I thought it was on the regular ballot in November.
No, we're doing it in March. It's the presidential primary. We figure we're gonna get everybody then.
Okay, gotcha.
Both sides, everybody wants to know who's right. I mean,
Yep,
that's,
Yep, you're gonna get the most, you're
Then.
gonna get a true,
yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the way to do it.
And we want the most feedback. We want people to know what's going on. We want them
Absolutely.
involved.
Absolutely.
March 5th, it looks like.
March 5th.
So, yeah,
Good?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
This
Where
is
has
all
he
gonna go to
been?
Union County.
I'm trying to catch up. I was on vacation.
Oh, my Lord. Okay, so what else? What else do you need to know from us? I'm good with these numbers. I mean, it's gonna hurt a little bit, but we're gonna get so much stuff done. It's gonna be so good for the village, it's gonna be so good for the constituents, and we're gonna get connectivity. I mean, I'm excited about this. And quite honestly, like, our tax rate is crazy low now, and what people are gonna get for their tax increase for a short amount of time is gonna be amazing.
Well,
Is everybody okay with this?
Couple of,
Nobody wants to answer me.
No.
I've already said yes, so.
I'm good with it.
I am too.
couple things I'll throw out too. Number one, the numbers that we obtained, obviously, are from the master plan, which we know are inflated. We also kind of matched them up with what our trail builder would quote us doing the trails. Now, some of the trails are actually adjacent to NCDOT roads, which is essentially an extension of the road, not necessarily a crushed path trail. So we could also use our all-inclusive contract with our concrete and asphalt crews, so we can get a variation of numbers and quotes from that too, to see what's more beneficial for us. And then secondly, I got the numbers on the chimneys. Increase in ad valorem for 100% is 175 million, so you can rough out the 80%. But of 185 million, that would bring in roughly 105,000 on tax revenue.
okay.
So roughly,
So I just did some numbers. If numbers are right, because the average house was worth, what, 500,000, now it maybe, say 600,000 is the average home in North Carolina.
Austin's saying
Times the
yes.
4 cents, tax increase is $240 of increase in your taxes for the average Marvin resident, and then, which equates to about $4.61 a week. So it's a cup of coffee a week.
so if you do the rough numbers, say, let's just use, I'm gonna use more inflated numbers, because Marvin has higher real estate. So it's, if you own $1 million house, you're at 6 cents now, you owe $600. If it goes up 4 additional cents, you're at 10, so you owe $1,000 in your property tax.
Right. Divided by 52 weeks is maybe 2 cups of
2
coffee.
cups of coffee. One grande at Starbucks
Grande latte.
with
at
extra
Starbucks
shots.
per week, extra in your budget.
There you go.
I'm just looking for angles to pitch it.
No,
'Cause
I
I
mean,
think it is so low, and people look at it and they're like.
they're
this
gonna
is-
look at it as a percentage and not what it
and-
really
and we're
is.
still getting a better
Goes down
deal
to
than their.
an extra
than our
$400 a
neighbors to the
year
south.
Yeah.
for all the
For
roads to be
all
taken
the
care of,
things
the
being
trails
done.
be built, park stuff done. This is a lot of stuff. for-
Connector stuff. This is
Yeah.
stuff for the education piece, but we will, well, that's a good one.
What's that?
You can, he likes the coffee comparison, like what does it
what it
boil
is.
down to? But it's the connectors, it's us maintaining the speed limits, it's us being able to get trucks off of our roads. I mean, there's so many things that our education people need to
I'm
highlight.
waiting for that person to come in here. I don't drink coffee.
Do a glass of wine, because that's like a half a glass of wine.
That point about getting the trucks off, I just witnessed a Publix truck pulling out of Henry Nesbitt onto Waxaw Marvin Road yesterday.
Yeah, you know
Like,
that's a cut-through.
not even a cool idea. But
Yeah.
yes, it makes it difficult for flow and everything else with these trucks.
We can do a lot of these little talking points.
No, I know, sorry.
In our communication piece. One of the things we have to keep in mind moving forward on the consultant with the communications is we have to keep everything educational purposes only. We can't really dictate what we want people to vote for or against. It's strictly educational purposes.
Yeah,
So-
but that's educational.
Yeah, it is.
That's council, but as an individual, we can,
Yeah,
right?
yes, absolutely.
Okay, do this again, because I don't think anybody understood or heard or was
Yeah, I
listening to what you were
didn't, I
saying.
didn't give this to everyone, so just so y'all know, Mayor Pro Tem asked for our trail builder to give us a quote on just a couple of different trails that we've got listed here, just to see how inflated our numbers were. Master plan. Y'all don't have this, I'm just gonna read it to you, but for S2, the master plan estimated around 3.7 million.
Which is the Waxaw Marvin Greenway, the whole thing. That's A, B, and C, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
We've got it quoted from approximately 2.2 to 3.3, depending on the size of the trail we want to do.
So we could,
So it's definitely a little bit of a savings for sure. I would also like to extend this and see what the linear footage is for our all-inclusive contract, because I think it's actually going to be a little cheaper. So,
yeah.
and with that
Underpromise,
said,
overdeliver.
with that
That's what we're
said, if
doing.
we're able to get some
That,
of these
and then you
things
can get
done for
that,
cheaper,
that, or that.
then we could reallocate those funds and put them back into fulfilling more of the projects that we don't have highlighted on this list.
What's
or
the
we
difference
could have-
between asphalt 8 and asphalt 10 and 12?
It's the size,
Well, some of that
8 feet, 10 feet.
stuff
Oh, 8 feet.
is,
8 feet.
So,
some of it is builder responsibility too.
Say again?
On, part of S1 is gonna be built by builder, right?
Oh, I don't
Broadmoor?
know. I'm just using that for number
I mean,
purposes.
we'll get some fee and lieu money if we
Or-
don't already have it.
Or they build it, one or the other, but that section along Broadmoor is their responsibility for cost.
Yeah, I think we probably have fee and lieu money for
So
that.
some of that
Can we
stuff,
ask Hunter that? Hunter should know.
that's gonna be a savings.
Broadmoor, do we have fee and lieu money, or are they building the sidewalk?
Jill, we've been budgeting fee and lieu money for the last couple of years on Broadmoor, and I want to say it was like less than $10,000.
Huh?
Do you remember that?
They're like,
Look at the budget for
Have a
this
half a
year,
mile
this
of
past year, or
road
the year
frontage.
before. There's a fee and lieu in there.
We
there was
probably- we
fee
probably
and lieu
have the
for
easement,
Winmore. They
Winmore.
paid a fee and lieu,
And it's not very much.
yes.
Okay, maybe it's one more.
It wouldn't be Broadmoor. Broadmoor is, I thought, was gonna build the actual along Waxaw Marvin. I know Winmore paid a fee in lieu because they're on the opposite side of the road, and we wanted to put it on the other, on Broadmoor's side.
I'll get an answer for that, but does that mean y'all want to manipulate the numbers?
I'm just saying,
No.
there should be, there should be
No.
a cost savings for those portions that are getting developed. That should be able to help us a little bit, save some money along those corridors.
Okay. Unless y'all want to manipulate the numbers, I can just let you know at the end, when Hunter texts me back on that fee
Yeah,
in
that's
lieu.
fine. Okay, so then we need to go over to the park numbers?
Yeah, is everybody good with this? Because this is kind of our final stab, and we're going to take this and run with it with our communications people.
We have nothing budgeted for fee in lieu this budget season.
Yeah, not this year, it would have been the last year. I want to say it was 6,000, and if that number doesn't sound right, then it might be Winmore. And I don't know if we delineated who it was from. And I've asked Hunter, so he'll respond back in a little bit. Is everybody good with what you see? Tax impact?
I don't want to hear, I can't hear anybody's head move. I need verbal speak.
I don't vote.
I don't care, I want to hear what you think. It's going to be your
course.
fault anyway,
It
so.
absolutely will be my fault. I think, again, this goes back to everyone's paying the same tax. Some are enjoying the roads owned by Marvin, others are not. This is a way to get that fixed from previous councils that have agreed to this process, and it gets the connectability. It's everything we want that I think we can afford it more in today's dollars than tomorrow or 10 years down the road when we want to do it. And it helps with the roundabout, if I'm not mistaken,
It does,
too.
and it is also fulfilling one of the biggest requests from our constituents, which is connectivity and greenways, so.
I'm a thumbs up.
Okay. Speak.
He said thumbs up.
I know, you speak. Wayne says thumbs up.
The thing about it is, I don't think we can fine tune it enough to really get close. I think Christina said the thing, if we have savings on it, then we can put the money back in and do more work with it. That's,
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
there's no question.
So you're good.
yes.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
Andy?
I'm good with it. I think it's a great plan, and I think it's going to get our constituents what they have been wanting for a long time. It's going to get it completed in a much shorter term than what we've been chipping away at, so.
Perfect. Okay, so now on to the park. Park money?
So there is no fee in lieu from Broadmoor. They are actually putting in a portion of that sidewalk. So we can make that reduction reflective, but it's not, it's just that portion right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
to
It's,
to my knowledge, it's on the plat that way, it was on the plans that way. It's been, so we didn't have a Belgrove situation.
Right.
It's already been told with Beechwood, and they're aware of it. I do not think we received a fee in lieu at the time of the approval back in 2017, but we can double
Yeah,
check.
we should have received a fee in lieu from Winmore, but not Broadmoor.
It's probably Winmore, which is, because it's not very much.
Right, because it was a small amount, and it was just because, for their side of the road, but
so more than likely, it's really minuscule in terms of the financial impact, so
No, I mean, just leave the numbers on there, that's
Okay. Yeah.
fine. But is it not going from the top of their property line to Stacy Howie?
It's going, yes, it's going from the top of their property line down to the Stacy Howie intersection, and it's actually in front of Stacy Howie as well.
and then
Perfect.
is Jones Homes doing,
No, but we have an easement there.
They granted an easement.
granted an easement so that we can build it?
They were technically a rural subdivision, so that part of the ordinance of
Sidewalks.
sidewalks in front did not apply to them. But they did grant us an easement across the front of
Yes.
all of the 4 properties along Waxhaw Marvin.
So that's a cost savings in itself,
Well, it doesn't matter if it was in the right of way anyway, it'll be ours.
but,
But yes.
true.
But yes,
But then it'll give us the opportunity to have a nicer
yes.
trail through there,
Yeah.
so that
I don't need
helps.
that anymore.
Okay.
So to summarize, before we move on to parks, we're all good with what's presented before us with a $14.4 million GEO bond question. There's a couple of cents involved in that. The first tranche we would pull would be a 4.5 cent increase. 3 years later, we'd have an additional, whatever, 3 cent increase potentially up to 7.5 cent.
That would be the, that would
That would be
it.
the max. And everybody's good with that, because that's what we're going to take and run with.
Yep.
Okay. Any objections?
Nope.
You don't need a motion.
No, we will, no, because we'll do the more formal stuff.
Do we do a public hearing for this?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a bunch of public hearings we'll have to do.
Okay.
just for the record, we don't know specifically what trails we're going to do first, in what years. We will come back later if the GO bond passes and kind of get a plan for what we're going to do first, second, third.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, once it passes, that will be our very, like, first order of business is.
Yep.
And probably have staff and engineers look at, like,
They
what's
recommend.
feasibly can we do, like, first and easiest, and then really start putting the plan together to do it.
And what makes sense as far as construction that's going on, such as roundabouts.
Shut it all
and-
down, do it all at once.
But I mean, like roundabouts and obviously,
school.
obviously,
No
No
work.
groceries, no
Nope.
deliveries.
Providence
No.
Road widening
Blocks.
project, a lot of things impact what we do when we do it, so.
Okay.
Andy's been a
All right, so I
buzzkill,
think
let's
we're
go.
good.
Okay,
Then we'll move
parks.
on to parks
Parks.
referendum.
Yeah, I'll do that in one second. September is, so in the next couple of months, we'll start getting the wording for the actual questions. And then the next steps, the official steps will be in October. We'll actually approve the resolutions to apply to the LGC, which will have the questions by that point. So the official stuff will start taking place in the fall of this year.
Okay.
For roads, we can move on to roads. Thanks for pulling that up there. I'm not roads, parks. Okay, so we have essentially been discussing a multi-purpose space over here at Village Hall with the property that we have that's adjacent to us. We've looked at a couple of different options. We've developed a master plan that has this multi-use functional space. We have applied for a Part F application. The initial kind of high-level estimates that we received at the time of just discussion points with the master plan were from our architect slash, not architect, our engineers, the McAdams firm. They had estimated, I think it was around 3 million. Yeah, looks like that's what you've got. So that's the numbers that we plugged in here. Again, we are looking for a Part F application. I asked for an update earlier this week. They said we would get something back in August. So we'll know in August if we've got that grant award. And we're relying on that based on the model that you see here. We are relying on that appropriation. So there's where you're seeing the Village Park grant, third parties, the 900,000. That would be the 500,000 that we have met with the legislators' appropriation. We've got the 500,000. We've subsequently spent down on that a little bit from the master plan and the drainage study. So approximately $100,000 we've already pulled out of that 500, so that leaves 400. And then we would have the potential $500,000 grant from Part F. So that's where those numbers are coming from. We would be looking for a $3.5 million GO bond approval based on that scenario, and that equates to,
So if I go back to our 5% assumption, that's about 2.25 pennies.
It didn't even change it.
You're looking in this column?
Yeah.
Yeah, this column is one that I have to type in. This column here changed, for example, this.
Okay.
I'll just show you.
I was like, it didn't even change it.
So 1458, 70, if I go back to the, all 5%, slightly different.
Okay.
So in addition to the potential 4 cents or so that we're looking at, 4.5 cents on the roads, we would need an additional 2.25 to cover the parks.
Okay.
And like the roads, as the debt pays down, this property tax increase can be stepped down as well.
I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I mean, what a centerpiece to go along with Village Hall, to have that right there in the middle of the Heritage District for the community as a gathering place. Again, it goes back to the survey. What do people want? They want open space, they want connectivity, they want greenways. I mean, that is, again, answering answering the call to what the community wants. So I think I think that would be spectacular to have.
I think that's gonna give Tyler a really cool tool
Yep, to program.
to program and get a lot of really nice stuff going on in the community.
Yep, I agree.
Is there anything that y'all want to add to this at all? Are you good with just doing?
Well, Wayne and I just had a lovely conversation at Coffee with Council with a gentleman who would really like some sports fields in Marvin. So I don't know if we want to talk about maybe upping that, talk about upping that number some?
Where?
I don't know.
That's the thing, unless you wanna buy, pay a retail price for a place with a house on it and all that stuff just to get land within the village, I don't see it.
Well,
It'd be an
and-
exorbitant amount of money.
I don't disagree, but this is something that is being talked about amongst the community that we are hearing that they would like. So I don't know if we want to, we can talk about it next week at our meeting when we talk about Coffee with Council and everybody's here. But it is just something, to think about. So I don't know if we want to add, a little extra that,
So again, I proposed this
I know years ago and nobody
10
wanted
years
to do
ago,
it.
and, and getting multiple communities, because we don't have the space for it. And
Unless we
everyone
want to
who does-
annex in somewhere.
Well, WCWAA is always underwater. You can't even play there. So that's not even necessarily an option, so it would be separate space. I see it in probably the Weddington area, but because they have so much more land, and you do a multiple, and it's kind of a centerpiece where you do a multiple bond down the road with multiple municipalities competing against and that should pass easily if they don't want development and more homes in there, because you're competing with the developers and you're buying raw land for fields, and everybody is able to use it. All different municipalities are able to use it, but that's,
Sports fields are
It's
are
just there's no
expensive
land here.
to
I mean-
develop as well.
So,
No, I know, I'm
need a
just,
minimum of 50 acres is what they told me at WCWAA, 50 acres. So I don't think we have that here.
Okay,
So-
I said this morning, 35 or 40, we can go to 50.
No, they told, this is WCAA, this is years ago, told me minimum 50 acres is what they need.
so just change your number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's for a facility that covers everything though, right?
Yes.
It's just something that was brought up. We don't have to do it on the GO bond, but it is something that the community is looking for, so we may want to. I would definitely like to talk about it with full council next week, because he said, the gentleman said that he would be interested in maybe starting a committee to look into it and do some research and kind of see what they can find.
one of the things that Tyler and I have been discussing this over the last couple of weeks. He's been looking into this, and y'all will hear a report from him at the work session at the end of the month. He's put together a really nice package of just recreational opportunities for y'all to consider as adding to our programs here, and one of them is the potential use of multi-use fields. Marvin Creek has approached us about maybe some fields that they have. He's also entertaining some, the fields at the school, Marvin Elementary. He's had correspondence with Dr. Spencer, and we basically have to go through Union County to get the fields rented, so we're looking at doing an exclusive contract with them, but we would have to pay for the facility rentals. He's got a couple plans and ideas for rectangular fields, soccer primarily, and T-ball. So you'll see that at the end of the month. That is something that we could put into place as kind of like a pilot program to see how it works, and then we can expand from there. But if we're talking about adding on fields or wanting to procure some of that, we definitely need to get some numbers put into the model so that we can plan.
I don't know if we want to or not. I'm just bringing it up now because we said we would, and since we were having this meeting.
Yep.
So I'm fine leaving it as it is now, and we can explore it more. And if we have to do it later on, we can do another bond for just fields.
And it's something that we could mention at WUMA as well, and just see what the level of interest is at that, because if it does happen, I don't see it necessarily happen in Marvin City proper, but it could be something that we could all enjoy.
Yeah. Okay.
What I talked to Jeff about, Weddington, about.
Yes.
That's-
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm fine leaving it the way it is. I just wanted to bring it up. And I
Okay.
definitely want to put it on the agenda for Tuesday. Austin, if you can. Thank you.
Okay.
You want to put it on Tuesday's agenda or the work session?
Tuesdays, because we'll do a coffee, I can do it in the coffee with council debrief, if you can just
Okay.
remind me.
All right.
All right, I'm good with this.
So that would be a 2.25? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Next up? Are we
Do you
done?
need anything else with
No.
this?
And it'll follow that same schedule. We will start the official legal stuff in the fall.
Okay.
You good?
Can we
Sweet.
go back to that schedule really quick? Not that schedule, the other schedule we pulled up, sorry. Be more specific, lady.
This one right here.
No, the other schedule. That schedule. Sorry, the calendar, yes, thank you, okay.
What's past October 20? Okay, cool.
You can keep going so
Good.
they can see the rest of it.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Tired.
Keeping you
I'm
up there,
good.
Kim?
I know, sorry. Keeping me from my nap.
Okay. Any other questions about money?
Just
GO
want to
bonds?
leave this,
Nope.
1 second. Okay.
Okay.
You good?
All right.
It's the
Yep.
last time we'll see Chazo.
Oh, are you sad? We're so fine.
Are you sad? He's like, really?
No, not at all. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
See,
Appreciate
we were
it.
very focused today, weren't we? Yeah.
It was even better, yeah, because it's all about you today.
Yeah. You didn't have to wait.
Yeah, no waiting, nothing, so. All right, so moving on, we're going to get into discuss and consider entering contract with Granite Sky Creative Group for marketing and social media consulting.
So I'll just open up real quick before Austin takes over and just let you know, we did do a quick little RFP on this to get some proposals. Austin did a really good job getting it out to several people. We've got a lot of responses. Him and I weeded through all the responses and we came up with what we think is the most adequate solution. I'll let him speak to it, but they've got experience in this industry. They would be the people that are basically taking what y'all have just done and putting it out there for the public to have input to make their decision for or against. And I'll just
And-
turn it over to Austin.
And just for official to finish, what this is about is for consulting for general obligation bonds referenda not to exceed $16,000 and authorized manager to execute the contract. So that's what we're discussing now. Go ahead.
In the end, 17 firms acquired our RFP. We received 6 responses, including from our current communications vendor and our current website vendor. We reviewed the proposals in detail, and by far, Granite Skies stood out as the most qualified firm. They had the most detailed proposal. They had the most detailed plan for approaching the education for the referendum. They're the only firm that had experience with general obligation bond referendums. They did them for Garner and the city of Concord, all of which passed overwhelmingly, so I think we're in good hands. Their professional services run around $12,000. I'm asking for an additional $4,000 on top of that for the purpose of signage, banners, and some additional funds for contingency. We initially budgeted $10,000 for this work, but I'm asking you all to authorize us to do a budget amendment for an additional $6,000 to cover $16,000. If you have any questions about the proposals, I'm more than happy to walk through them, but that's my recommendation.
Now, this money, just so you all know, if the GO bond passes, we can take this and lump it into that cost. If it doesn't pass, then it comes out of our budget just like it normally would an expenditure, which we have, like he said, budgeted a certain portion of it. So the additional that he's requesting is going to be from fund balance. So
Well, I don't see where we really have any other option if we're gonna go for this GO bond, we gotta do it. We know
I
there's,
looked at all these, so we've had no other really working relationships with anyone else, right?
Granite Sky is our website vendor. Ascendant Health Marketing, they used to be called JHM Creative Co. They are our normal communications vendor. I enjoy working with them. I just think they're too small of a team for this project.
I would also note, I'm not sure if you noted this, we did have a vendor that actually is in Marvin to respond. They had a really good proposal. We toyed around with, both of us were discussing like both of them because they looked really good. We felt better about Granite Sky because they've actually done GeoBond presentations and this whole process before. So nothing against the other guy, he just didn't have direct experience with
Well,
GeoBond.
It's not the lowest, it's not the highest, it's,
It's a good middle ground. One thing that we will get from Granite Sky that was not in the other proposals is what's called a microsite. So whenever you go to marvinnc.gov, you will be redirected first to a mini site just on the bond proposal. So it's going to divert our website traffic straight to our information. And that's something that no one else proposed and something we didn't even think about.
Okay, fantastic. So, I'm gonna make a motion to enter a contract with Granite Sky Creative Group for marketing and social media consulting for general obligation bonds referendum not to exceed $16,000, and authorize manager to execute the contract, and authorize staff to prepare a budget amendment from fund balance. And if it passes, then we can roll that into the cost of the bond.
Second.
I don't need a second.
further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Motion passes.
Good job with that.
And with that, I think that's it, right?
Yep.
Do I need a motion to adjourn
At,
at
12:39.
12:39?
so moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all.
Everybody. See, you guys thought this was gonna take forever today, didn't you? Can you turn that off, please?
Yeah, I'm getting there. We ordered food.